The Rapid Assessment of City Emissions, or RACE, is designed to address increasing emission levels in cities due to rapid urbanization. The ultimate goal is to make cities more livable and specifically focuses on energy and fuel efficiency, leading to reduction in associated carbon dioxide and air pollutant emissions from the transport and energy sectors. The initial pilot cities for RACE include Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam, Colombo in Sri Lanka, and Ahmedabad in India. In the Philippines, the USAID is supporting Batangas City as a pilot city for RACE through the Climate Change and Clean Energy Project. By the year 2015, the number of megacities is projected to increase to 36. 23 of these megacities are located in Asia. The rapid urbanization may lead to the lack of integration between land use and transport planning, which may ultimately result to environmental pressure on air and the city's limited resources such as water and land, significant increase in the intensity of energy and fuel use, road congestion, and inequality and declining economic competitiveness. Emerging megacities can plan for a sustainable city through the adoption of low emission urban development strategies. The RACE tool equips local government executives with a deep understanding of the impact of urban development on energy use and emissions. Given several scenarios, policymakers can quickly identify priorities for policy intervention. There are several steps in the RACE process, from the establishment of baseline information to the review and consequent development of policies. Step 1 involves the establishment of baseline spatial inventory of people, buildings and their areas, land uses, transport networks, and hazard zones. Step 2 requires the preparation of a 2030 development scenario. Growth and development options, which focus on the location of growth, density of growth, land use mix of growth, and land use or transport relationships, need to be prepared on the basis of a 2030 overall development scenario that posits demographic and economic conditions in the future, the possible resulting demand for building stock, and major transport infrastructure. Step 3 calls for the calculation of emissions from transport and building energy use for the baseline. A calculation of emissions under the business as usual (BAU) option is also done on the basis of the 2030 development scenario. The business as usual or BAU option is based on locational and growth trends over the last 1 to 2 decades. In most cities, growth has been characterized by suburban sprawl of low density areas and scattered industrial buildings. Step 4 provides for the construction of a model low carbon resilient LCR city option that reflects A. Higher residential and employment densities, B. Greater proportion of mixed land uses, and C. Directed development to areas of low susceptibility to natural hazards and that are likely to be best served by public transport, especially light and medium rail. The BAU and LCR options are modeled in the GIS maps. The last step is a comparison of estimated emissions between the business as usual scenario and the model low carbon resilient scenario. It is expected that the local chief executives will be guided in the formulation of ordinances or local policies that aim to mitigate potential increases in emission levels resulting from rapid urbanization. Shown here are two maps that show the business as usual scenario in 2030 as compared to the low emission development scenario in 2030. The baseline scenario included parameters such as electricity and fuel and the different pollutants such as carbon dioxide, particulate matters, nitrogen oxide, as these impact the BAU and LCR scenario. The arrows depict the difference between the LCR, low carbon resilient, and the BAU. E.g., downward arrow for the motorized trips means that the motorized trips in the LCR scenario should be lower than in the BAU scenario. Downward arrows depict decreased electricity use and/or reduction in fossil fuel energy share. There are key issues that need to be addressed when using the RACE. It is important to have data on GIS, transport and socio-economic information. City development is linked with infrastructure support and ports development. Capacity building on the use of the toolkit is important, specifically of the users from the local government unit. It is also ideal if all stakeholders are part of the process so that the resulting policy directions generate the commitment from the stakeholders.